A very good morning, students. This is your English teacher Benu Sehrawat, and once again after a long time I welcome you all to RKP online classes. And today we have an interesting poem, right? And the name of our poem is A Narrow Fellow in the Grass. Now you all must be thinking who this narrow fellow is. But let me tell you, I will not let the cat out of the bag. Now, I'm sure most of you must have understood also that what I mean by this sentence. I mean, I will not, reveal this secret by a mistake or intentionally. I will not tell you who this narrow fellow in the grass is. And we will know about this fellow, and we will, as we read the poem, we will let the secret, unwrap. Alright? So that would be more interesting, right? So this poem, A Narrow Fellow in the Grass, has been written by Emily Dickinson. Okay? Emily Dickinson. Now, Emily Dickinson is an American poet. Okay? American poet. Now, I'm sure you must be thinking, why ma'am has written poet instead of poetess? But let me tell you, both are correct. Okay? We can use poet for a female writer as well. Alright? So, Emily Dickinson was an American poet and she was born in 1830. She was born in 1830. Now, Emily was a prolific writer. Okay? What did I just say? She was a prolific writer, or we can say artist. Now, what do we mean by prolific? Prolific means an artist who has produced a large number of works. Alright? So, it's a good word to use for an artist. Okay? That is prolific. Alright. Now, Emily Dickinson wrote nearly 2000 poems. Okay? So, she wrote nearly 2000 poems, and the most interesting thing is that most of her poems were discovered after her death. Alright? So most of her poems were discovered after her death. And if we talk about her writing style, so let me tell you that Emily Dickinson took a great liberty with language. Now, how? She used a strange order of words, which is unusual, like we use while talking or while writing. No, she didn't use that, straight, regular, basic order of words. She didn't do that. In fact, she used a strange order of words. And one more thing, the way she used to, use punctuation marks, that was also very unique. Don't worry, you will get to know about her these qualities when we read the poem and come across all these things, minute things which I just told you about her writing. Okay, so here, my dear students, let's start the poem A Narrow Fellow in the Grass. Now, before starting it, I request all of you to open your books, English Vibe, at page number 106. Okay, so page number 106. Poem is A Narrow Fellow in the Grass, written by Emily Dickinson. All right, so a narrow fellow in the grass occasionally rides. You may have met him, did you not? His notice instant is. Now beta, in the first stanza only, we get familiar with her speciality, and I just told you that she used a strange order of words and regarding the punctuation marks also. So both the things we'll find here in the first stanza, right? Okay, so a narrow fellow in the grass occasionally rides. Now occasionally means sometimes, okay, not frequently, not regularly, okay, occasionally rides. Now it's little strange now, because the poet says a narrow fellow. The speaker is telling us a narrow fellow in the grass. Okay, so there is something or somebody who is there in the grass and who sometimes rides. Now beta, we ride, by ride we mean like we ride the bicycle or we ride a bike, right? So occasionally rides. So here we get an idea that maybe there is somebody who rides a bicycle or a bike, right? So you may have met him, and see here, please notice, you may have met him. After that, the poet has used a question mark. If we see, I think it's not necessary here because it is an assertive sentence, right? But the poet uses it, right? And then she says, did you not? His notice instant is. Now, what is the meaning of instant? Instant means sudden. Okay, instant means sudden. Sudden. So the speaker says, you may have met him. So the speaker is very sure. Not absolutely sure, but the speaker thinks that the readers, they may have met him sometime, right? So the speaker also asks, have you met him ever, right? And the speaker says his notice instant is. Now again, if you notice the order of the word, now in general English, the way we use regular English, we'll say his notice is instant, right? But here the line has been written as his notice instant is. Alright, so the speaker says that this fellow who is there in the grass and who sometimes rides there in the grass, right? And the speaker is also sure that many of you must have met him sometime in your life, right? And the speaker also tells that his appearance is sudden. All right, it's not a very like you see him walking towards you. No, his appearance is sudden. That means he appears suddenly without a notice. Alright, I am sure you all must be thinking who this narrow fellow is, right? Okay, now the grass divides as with a comb. A spotted shaft is seen, and then it closes at your feet and opens further on. Now beta, when you listen to me reciting this poem, please focus on the pronunciation beta. Now see, I spoke this word comb, C-O-M-B, right? C-O-M-B. Whenever the letter B is there at the end of the word, we do not pronounce it beta. Okay, we do not pronounce it. So here, instead of saying it comb, like producing the sound of B, no. Instead of that, the right pronunciation says that we should pronounce it like comb, comb, comb. Alright, the same way, climb, climb, dumb, dumb. Alright, so I hope you will take care of these small little things, right? So the grass divides as with a comb. Now the speaker tells us when this narrow fellow rides, the grass divides. Okay, the grass divides. Now suppose this is grass here. Okay, if something rides here, what will happen? The grass here, it will divide into two as the comb. Now if when we comb our hair, like see here, can you see this partition? So if we run the comb here like this, it will make a partition, right? The same way the grass divides into two when this narrow fellow rides. And what happens if you are standing there? Okay, if you are standing there nearby, so what will happen? The grass, it will come closer to your feet, right? When the narrow fellow is crossing from there, the grass will come closer to your feet, and when it is gone, it will go back to its place. So that is what the speaker is trying to say here. Okay, so now you see here, a spotted shaft is seen. A spotted means see like this. If this is a box, right? So this is now spotted, something on which there are spots, okay, which is not clear. Okay, so that is called spot, spotted. If something is spotted, that means there are spots on that. Okay, so that is called spotted. Okay, so shaft means something long and thin. Okay, shaft means something long and thin. Beta, I would like to tell you one more thing here. See, whenever we have this sound TH, I know this TH together, it gives us the sound also and the also, right? The sound, that is called the sound. But whenever you pronounce it in a word, please do not be very harsh while pronouncing this sound, and don't pronounce it like th. Actually it is like th. Okay, when you you put your tongue between the teeth, teeth. So it is basically the mixture of th and s. So it's not thing. We will not pronounce it like thing. Instead we should say think. Okay, all right. So a spotted shaft is seen, right? So a spotted shaft, that means something which is very long and thin and there are spots on it. So I'm sure by now you must have guessed that who this narrow fellow is, right? Of course, you are absolutely correct. The speaker is talking about a snake. Alright, so who is this narrow fellow? It is a snake. Right? So now of course, and then it closes at your feet and opens further on. I have already told you, when suppose in the garden where there is grass, if it moves from there, so the grass, it will come closer to your feet at that particular time when it is crossing from there, and when it's gone, the grass will come at its place. Now you must have understood, beta, why. See, in the first stanza, a narrow fellow in the grass occasionally rides. Now I would like to I would like you to come back on stanza 1, right? See, beta, when we are reading a poem, always remember one thing. See, all the words used in the poem, they do not give us the literal meaning. I mean, the words used there, they do not mean literally how they are used. Like if we talk about the word ride, it means when you ride a bicycle or a bike. But here, when the speaker, the poet, uses this word rise, actually it means, here it means moves. It means moves, right? So we do not have to take the literal meaning of the word. We have to understand the meaning of the words in the context of whatever we are reading. Alright? So here it means, rides means moves. Okay? Now coming to stanza 3. He likes a bogey acre. He likes a bogey acre, a floor too cool for corn. But when a boy and barefoot, I mow than once at noon. Now, the speaker tells us that this fellow, the snake, it likes bogey acres. Now, what does that mean? Bogey acre means bogey acre. Now we all know that acre is a unit of land. You know, when we measure it, 1 acre or 2 acres. So but here in this poem, it means bogey acre means wet and muddy areas of land. Okay, so we all know, and you must have also, if you have come across a snake, or you have, or if you have ever seen it, they are generally, not, I don't say every time, but generally they are found where there is the land is wet and muddy. right? And where there is water, right? So boggy acre means wet and muddy area of lands. Okay, so the snake likes boggy acres, a floor to cool for corn. Now, and a floor, okay, a floor here means the piece of land which is too cold for any type of grain, not only corn but any type of grain, okay, so which is actually not favorable for the grains to grow, okay. Now, so he likes that type of lands. But when a boy and barefoot, now he says, the speaker says, but whenever there is a boy and that too who is barefoot. Now barefoot means, see beta, this word is combination of two words here. Bare, bare means without, bare means without, but foot, of course you know what is foot, but here by barefoot we do not mean that somebody doesn't have a foot, okay, but rather it means, barefoot means somebody who is not wearing slippers or shoes, okay. So if somebody is not wearing slippers, so we can say that he is walking barefoot. He is barefoot. That means he is without slippers. Alright. So barefoot means without slippers. So the speaker says, but when a boy and barefoot are more than once at noon. Now here by this line we get to know that who is our speaker is a boy, okay, our speaker is a boy, right? And here in these two lines he shares his childhood memories with us, that when he was a boy and when he was barefoot, when he was a boy and he was standing in the fields without slippers. So during those times he, you know, he met this fellow many a time, okay, and at what time of the day? Yes, at noons. All right, so near around 12. So have passed, I thought, a whiplash, and when he was standing, when he was a child, at that time when he was standing there and he felt something, that you know something is crossing by. So what did he feel at that time? He thought as if a whiplash has passed. Okay, now what is whiplash? Whiplash, beta, see, you need to understand it here. See, I would like to tell you one important thing here. Here if you see in the poem, this word has been used as this, okay, like two words, whip and lash, right? So first I would like to tell you about this. Whiplash, when it is used as one word, okay, it means a neck injury, okay, it means a neck injury. But when it is used as two separated words, it means you must have seen it in maybe in movies or maybe in real life. It is a long string of leather, and let me tell you, we call it chabuk in Hindi. You must have seen that chabuk which is used to sometimes hit the animals, right? So that is called whiplash. Okay, so it's a long string of leather. All right, so when the snake passes by, okay, where the boy was standing in his childhood days, so he just felt as if a whiplash has just, somebody has moved a whiplash, right? So he says unbraiding in the sun. Now beta, unbraiding means like something is tight. You must have girls, and of course boys must have also seen their sisters or mothers when they make a braid of their hair. Okay, so that is called braid. When we have a long string of hair, that is called braid, right? So that is called braid. So when we open it, what happens? It opens up very fast like this. All the layers go like this. Okay. So the poet says, the speaker says, in fact I should use the speaker here. So the speaker says when it goes from there, it feels as if a braid, okay, a braid has just opened up in the sun. And now, as I told you earlier, we do not have to get the literal meaning of the words here. Here the word sun, it doesn't actually mean the sun. It actually means sunshine. Okay, sunshine. So here in this line, it the speaker, the speaker makes us familiar with the beauty of the snake, this beautiful creature, right? When stooping to secure it, it wrinkled and was gone, right? So the speaker says, and when stooping, when you just when you bend and you try to secure it, when you try to control it, I mean there may be two reasons. When you try to either control it or when you try to protect it, what happens? It just wrinkles. Wrinkles means when something becomes shorter. Wrinkles means when something becomes shorter. If you have seen a snake move somewhere, you must have seen, like it's long, then when it moves ahead, it shrinks, and then again it becomes longer, right? So it shrinks, it wrinkles, and the moment you try to find it, it's gone. It just becomes it goes out of your sight. You don't find it anywhere the next second, right? Several of nature's people I know, and they know me. I feel for them a transport of cordiality. Now beta, see, now here the poet gives this especially this stanza, it gives a very beautiful feeling, and it shows that the poet is very fond of animals, nature. All right, so that is why the poet says here several of nature's people. Now beta, by nature's people, people here doesn't mean human beings. All right, whereas here nature people means animals, insects. All right, so the poet calls all animals and insects nature's people. Okay, nature's people. So the poet says, I know many of nature's people, okay, and they know me. Alright, so these two lines show that there is a beautiful bond, a strange, a unique, a beautiful bond between the poet and the animals, right? I feel for them a transport of cordiality. Now beta, cordiality means cordiality. Cordiality means friendship. Friendship, a beautiful bond. So the poet here says that I am a fan of these animals, these nature's people, okay, and she says, the poet says that I feel a bond of friendship with them. I feel great love for them. Whenever I see them, whenever I meet them, I am, a feeling of friendship, it transported into me, okay. Now, but never met this fellow attended or alone, without a tighter breathing and zero at the bone. Now, in this stanza, see, if you see here, I mean the whole poem, in the beginning she just, the poet introduces the narrow fellow, right? And then gradually when we come to second or third stanza, in third stanza, the speaker, the boy, he shares his childhood experiences with us, right? And then in the second last stanza, the poet, the poet makes us familiar with the beauty and elegance of this creature. And here comes the last stanza, and it tells us that there is a sense of fear in the poet's heart, right? So the poet says here, but never met this fellow attended or alone. Now the speaker says here that still, I mean, I am fascinated by these nature's people, okay. Fascinated by means attracted to something or somebody, okay. So the speaker says, though I am fascinated by all these people, amazing creatures, but I have never attended them, I have never met them, okay. Because let us find out the reason behind that. Without a tighter breathing. Now the speaker says, whenever I met these creatures, okay, there is always a tighter breathing. What does that mean? Tighter breathing means when we breathe regularly, I mean, we do not find any tightness in the chest. But when we are scared of something, we can feel a tightness in the chest, in breathing, right? We find it difficult to breathe. Why? Due to fear. So, tighter breathing is due to fear. Tighter breathing is due to fear. So, and zero at the bone. Now, this is an interesting expression, beta. Zero at the bone means, see beta, there are different levels of getting scared, right? One can be like when you are just scared of something, you will be like this, all right? When you are little more, then you will feel tight, the breathing will be tighter. But when you are extremely scared, what would happen? what happens at that time? You will feel a chill in your bone, at your bone. That means you will get very wet sensation, a chilling sensation in your body, right? That is called zero at the bone. When you are in extremely when you are in extreme when you are extremely afraid, when you are extremely scared of something, right? So here the speaker says in the last stanza that whenever the speaker has met this fellow, every time, it left the boy, because the speaker is the boy in this poem. So it left him extremely scared. All right. So beta, if you see here in this poem, let us just once let's recollect all the ideas that we came across the poem. So it's about a snake. Okay, narrow fellow is a snake, right? And the speaker in the poem is a boy, right? Because he shares his childhood experiences with us, right? So in this poem, beauty of the snake is described, and also this thing is also described that it also gives us a sense of fear whenever we see it or whenever we come across it. Now beta, I would like to draw your attention to something here. See, you might be thinking that we use it for an animal, right? But if you notice here, we have the poet has used he for the snake. So yes, of course it is right, and we can use he for an animal or insect. Now there are two conditions. One, when it is the main character in the lesson or a poem, right? When it is a main character. Second, when it is a pet, or you are talking about something with lot of affection. In all these cases, we can use he or she instead of it for animals. All right. So I hope this poem is clear to you, and I am very sure you must have enjoyed the ride with this narrow fellow, right? All right, beta. This is all in this video, and in the next video we'll be talking about the rhyme scheme and the other figures of speech, or we can say poetic devices which have been used in the poem. All right. So thank you so much. Have a great day ahead.